Shalom, everybody. Akiva Gersh here. Here's another fun fact about Israel. Of all the world, the lowest place on earth is found in Israel, the Dead Sea, 414 meters below sea level. That is pretty low. And the Dead Sea is well known as a place, as a sea that you can go into and float. Why is that? It's because of the high salt and mineral content in the Dead Sea itself. You don't go swimming in the Dead Sea. In fact, you don't want that water getting into your eyes. It could be very, very painful and damaging. So you walk in very, very slowly and you sit back slowly and you float. No matter what you do, you will float. You can't naturally get submerged in the waters of the Dead Sea because of this high salt and mineral content. So much so, it is 10% more salty than your average ocean. Well, how did it get that way? The Dead Sea has a very, very interesting story. The reason the Dead Sea is the way it is today is because of a fault line that exists in the Jordan Valley, which is where the Dead Sea resides, so to speak. Okay, on one side you have the country of Jordan, one side you have the country of Israel, and this is a fault line that has been separating over the past many, many years. Right, there's mountains on both sides, and in the middle was created this valley. Okay, well, eventually valleys get filled with water, and water started to accumulate in this area. Okay, that explains how water got there, but why is it so salty and why such a high mineral content? Well, one of the main sources, the main source of the Dead Sea is the Jordan River, which comes from the north, right? It enters into the Dead Sea, but no water leaves, at least not, doesn't flow out, right? Like, let's take the Kinneret in the north, the Sea of Galilee. The Jordan River flows into the Sea of Galilee, and it flows out of the Sea of Galilee, going through the Jordan Valley to the south, eventually getting to the Dead Sea. The waters of the Jordan River come into the Dead Sea, and then they stay there. There's no exit. Okay, so what happens over a long period of time is that all the natural salts and minerals that are found in the water naturally will stay there because there's no exit. There's nowhere for them to go, and they will settle on the ground, and they will be part of the water ecosystem of the Dead Sea. The only way water leaves naturally from the Dead Sea is through evaporation. So over many, many years, over great periods of time, that accumulation became so great that it is what it is today. This sea that you can float in, this sea that is 10 times saltier than your average ocean in the world. What's happening today, though, is kind of speeding things up. It's also shrinking the Dead Sea. What do I mean? Because of a few factors, the level of the Dead Sea is actually going down at a pretty rapid pace, about 1 meter per year. The main reasons why this is happening is one, because less water is coming from the Jordan River. The Jordan River still does flow into the Dead Sea, but by the time it gets there, it's a trickle because so much of the water has been taken out by farmers, both on the Jordanian side and the Israeli side. Also, lots of the minerals are being taken out, and the salts for all those great, creams and shampoos and mud masks and everything else that people like to buy either in Israel or even around the world. That makes the water lighter and easier to evaporate. So those are the main factors why the Dead Sea is actually shrinking. There is a movement here in Israel to save the Dead Sea, to come up with solutions. There's all kinds of creative solutions for it that are in the works, hopefully will be implemented and hopefully will save the Dead Sea for future generations. But it is an interesting thing that here in this little tiny country called Israel, we have the lowest place on earth. And what's also interesting, if you want to take a spiritual look at it, it's not that far from Jerusalem. It's about a kilometer down, so to speak, from Jerusalem. It's about a 35-minute drive to the very beginning of the Dead Sea. And it's interesting because in the Jewish tradition, Jerusalem is seen as the highest place spiritually in the world, the highest place spiritually, right? It's the site of previous temples that stood in Jerusalem for the Jewish people. It is our kind of spiritual epicenter. And yet just about a half an hour away is the lowest place physically. And I think that's a very interesting thing, that these two things not only happen in the land of Israel, but happen so closely. So next time, hopefully you go to Israel, you get to visit the Dead Sea, and you'll get to float on the waters of the Dead Sea and take that classic and fun picture of you reading a book or newspaper as you float.